What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy, and I'm coming at you with another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Hot Toys Kylo Ren. Now, as I've been slipping down the slippery slope that is Hot Toys Star Wars collecting, I decided that I wanted a lot of the major villains from both the movies and the shows. And obviously, for my sequel trilogy representation, I feel like that could be summed up pretty nicely with just one Kylo Ren figure. However, Hot Toys hasn't made a Kylo Ren in several years now, so I got pretty lucky in finding someone in the Out of the Basement Discord. Shout out to Out of the Basement. I talked to a guy, screen name Mick Lowe, who sold me this guy for $200 shipped. So very happy with that deal. Shout out to Mick Lowe, and shout out to the Buy Sell Trade channel in the Out of the Basement Discord. This figure comes in the standard style of packaging for Star Wars Hot Toys. You have a nice drab black backdrop with a glam shot of the figure from about the waist up. You can see that unhelmeted head looking really nice, and then on the little wraparound banner that goes around the lid of the box, you have another promo shot of the figure here from about the chest up, this time with his Supreme Leader helmet on from Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Over here you have the Star Wars logo. Back then they didn't have the TMS numbers, it was the MMS number. This is 560, name of the character, and then you have some logos on the bottom corners there. On this side of the box, you get a little bit of that wraparound banner, so this promo image kind of wraps around to this side. You just have another little banner here with all the information that we saw on the front of the box there. Other than that, nothing to really look at there. And then over here, we have a much larger glam shot of the figure on this side of the banner, looking super, super cool. On the back of the box, we get something that I wish Hot Toys did now on a lot of their products. We get some really cool art. I don't know if this is going to be replacing the insert that they do on a lot of the boxes now, but you get a really cool shot of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, flanked by several Sith Troopers. Might have to pick up a Sith Trooper Hot Toy down the road to accompany my Kylo Ren. As far as the bottom of the box goes, that's where you're going to find a lot of your warnings and things that we collectors don't really care about, and on the top of the box you get a Star Wars logo. As far as the packaging goes, that's about it, so why don't we get Kylo Ren opened and we'll check him out. Lifting off the lid of the box here, you'll see that we actually do still get an insert for the box here. So really, I wish that they would go back to this style of packaging as opposed to what they do now, because you get some really cool art that you could get framed, and you have some cool art on the back of the box. Removing the insert, which requires no tape or glue to be cut, you do also have the tray here for the figure and all of his accessories. I'm really excited to check this guy out, so I'm gonna get him unboxed and we'll do just that. All right, everybody, here is Kylo Ren out of the box. Let's get a closer look at the figure to check out all the detail. All right, so taking a look at Kylo Ren up close, I gotta say, for being an older Hot Toy, Hot Toys has always done a really nice job on their likenesses, and I think this Adam Driver likeness is very well done. For a blank expression with no emotion on it whatsoever, I think they've done a great job. The sculpted hair looks fantastic, the eyes are nice and glossy as they should be, and the scar and all of the kind of pigmentation of the skin here looks great, and I think they've done a fantastic job. It's got some nice, interesting articulation here, much different from what I'm used to with the newer Hot Toys, as I am newer to the game when it comes to the Star Wars Hot Toys here. He does have a little sleeve, almost like a turtleneck here, that is a part of the head and neck sculpt, which is all one piece. Taking a look at this cloak here, this cloak is really interesting. So you do have a wire at the hood and only at the hood. So you can bring this up, and it is very almost like puffer coat-esque. I think it's very interesting design, but the texture of this cape and cloak, it's very satisfying. It looks really beat up, as it should. It almost gives me like the visual look of like when pleather cracks, but that's the intended look for this, and I think it looks really good. I love how it feels. It's very soft, it drapes very nicely, it's stitched very nicely. The only thing I have to say is that I do wish that the rest of the cape itself was wired. Only the hood here seems to be wired, and that's fine because, you know, as far as what I want to lay nicely, it's most important to me for an older Hot Toy that the hood lays nicely. And of course, the more I play with this, the more that I could get it into a nice pose here, and I'm just kind of screwing around with it for the first time on camera. However, and I do really like this feature, this can just be removed via magnets that you can feel them underneath the shirt here, as well as at the ends of the cloak. And with that, it's very easy to shed the cape. There's no stitching or clips or anything like that you have to mess with, and you can have just your regular look for Kylo Ren. Something really interesting about Kylo Ren's design I always thought was cool is the ribbed sleeves that he has. These look really nice, and the fabric on these are really good. It's a different piece of fabric than the layer on the outside, which makes that outer tunic. The belt looks really nice with some very just, you know, very small, very subtle detail. You have the clip for his lightsaber hilt to go into as well. You will notice on the right arm there is a zipper that goes all the way up to the elbow on the inside of the right arm. You can see it's a little floppy as well. That's because this arm was swapped out at one point for the light up lightsaber. There are batteries included for that. I'm not going to display it that way just because that's not how I like to display my figures for Hot Toys. However, it is an option, and honestly, as far as the zipper goes, it being on the inside of the arm is fine by me, and I think it gave good access for this figure to be able to hold the lightsaber. And then of course down here you have just really nice stitching. Again, everything is very nice. The detail, as Hot Toys has always done, they're very masterful with the detail here. As far as the pants go, you're going to be looking at something just a little bit more plain, almost like the texture of like parachute pants. They're very thin, however they're pretty stretchy as well. You don't want to really pull on them too hard, especially where those seams are, as you don't want to be the fool who ripped his pants like SpongeBob. However, I think the pants do what they need to do. They've got good stitching, they look detailed. However, they're black pants. They don't really need to be that detailed, do they? As far as the boots, you got some Anakin Skywalker-esque boots here at the shins, and all of the belts are painted very nicely. They painted all of the faux clips for all the straps here. There are 4 straps on each boot. Everything looks great, especially down at the foot of the boot here. The soles look nice. There's no detail on the bottom of the soles. As you can see, this came out in 2021. We've come a long way in just 4 short years with the Star Wars Hot Toys game. But yeah, these boots look great. They are all one piece. I don't know if you wanted to remove these boots, how you would even get those off, because that is something you can do, is shed all the clothes and get down to the base body of the figure. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty basic design for a costume, but I really don't have a problem with it. I think that it looks very nice. All right, guys, I'm going to leave the cape off the figure for now, just so I can more easily show you the articulation here. So Kylo Ren does not have that like barbell jointed neck that we're used to with newer stuff. He has one joint at the bottom of the neck, so the head and neck are actually connected. So it being a ball joint, you can still get some decent range out of it. He can look down pretty nicely. Can he look up? Really almost not at all, unless you really bend that midsection back. You can get some good tilt out of it, and some right and some left. So overall, decent articulation for 2021, but not up to standards for 2025. At the shoulders, you do have butterfly joints. You can see that those will get you some pretty decent range forward and back. As far as a lightsaber wielding character goes, we're going to want more articulation. The more range, the better. The hinge and swivel at the shoulders is nice as well. You do get up to that 90-degree mark, and we did actually reveal another zipper here. So if you take the belt off with the Velcro here, you can actually unzip this outer piece and take it off completely. And then also we have a swivel at the shoulder. So this could technically go a full 360 degrees. However, the limitations of the fabric shirt here are going to, you know, make it so that you can't. However, if you were to shed all the clothes, the base body could get that full range. Kylo Ren does have a bicep swivel up here, which is great. He does have some, we would call them double jointed elbows. They get you up to a really nice range. Look how much range you can get on that articulation point. This is actually pretty comparable to the limitations of the human anatomy. So this is pretty awesome here. And then at the wrists, what you have is a hinge and swivel. So you have wrist pegs in here, and whatever way you swivel the wrist is the way that you'll be able to move the hinge here. So it's a very ingenious system, and we'll get into some of the swappable hand options in a little bit. Kylo seems to have a ball joint at the midsection as well as a ball joint at the waist, which is going to give you some pretty nice range here, and I'm honestly happy with that range. It feels good in hand, and especially for a 4-year-old figure, I think it feels really nice. At the hips, you're going to have another ball joint. Again, just be wary of the seam that runs down the middle of the pants. We don't want to, you know, ruin the stitching by pulling on that too hard, but it does have nice range. There is a thigh swivel there, which is a great added piece of articulation. You do have a double jointed, this is a pinless knee in the action figure world, and you can get well past the 90-degree mark. Again, pretty close to the limitations of the human anatomy, and for a 12-inch figure, I'd say that's pretty damn good. And then of course at the ankles, this is probably going to be pretty limited by the boot here. However, you do have a ball joint at the ankle. You can get maybe a little bit of forward, maybe a little bit of back, some pivot, nothing too drastic there. Again, that's just from the boot being all one piece, as opposed to being, you know, separate pieces so that you can get better articulation out of it. But with Hot Toys, you know, it is what you get. You know, as a 4-year-old figure, I'm not going to be as harsh on it as I am with brand new products, but overall, I think the look of this figure is an A+, and I think that the articulation is pretty good as well. All right, guys, now let's go over the accessories that Kylo Ren comes with. Now, the first thing I want to show off is the swappable head. Now, this is, for me, one of the most exciting accessories of this set, and that's mainly because I'm a huge fan of the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren helmet design. And how could you not be? I mean, it takes everything about an already cool helmet and makes it even cooler with the Kintsugi-style repairs made to the helmet. It's got great paint application with the reds and the silvers here, and honestly, I'm really happy with how they did the inside of the visor too, with that textured look to it. Now, you may have noticed there's a little switch here on the neck, and there is also a little panel which can be accessed with a Phillips head screwdriver if you have a mini screwdriver set. And this actually is battery powered so that you can light it up. I don't know if you can see how well that illuminated. Let me turn the lights off real quick. Now look at that. With the lights off, you can really see the glow, and in hand, even with the lights on, you can really see the glow very nicely, and this is a feature I'm going to keep. Usually, I'm not a huge fan of light-up features when it comes to Hot Toys and stuff, but when they're used in clever ways like this, where the figure still looks good without the light-up feature, that is where you really get me. So this is definitely going to be swapped on to Kylo Ren pronto. As far as swapping heads goes, it's pretty easy. You just apply some pressure to the head, remove that turtleneck kind of cuff there. This is what the head looks like without the cuff attached. And then all we're going to do is just take our neck sleeve here, attach it like this, and slap the new head on. Very, very easy to do. It snaps into place pretty nicely. Again, unfortunately, we don't have that upper neck ball joint. However, with that even not a thing, just the sheer aura of this character is enough for me. All right, guys, now, of course, as with most Hot Toys, you do get some swappable hand options. Now, out of the box, this Kylo Ren did seem to come with a C-gripping hand for gripping that lightsaber in the right hand and a closed fist hand in the left hand. Now, as this was a, you know, pre-owned figure when I bought it, usually a Hot Toy tends to come with either open idle hands out of the box or the closed fist hands. So, of course, you do have another closed fist hand for the right hand here that was in the box. These are all detailed very, very nicely. You can see lots of the sculpted detail of the stitching of the glove, and it feels a little dirty, and that's pretty great too, because Kylo Ren definitely gets down to business in The Rise of Skywalker. You'll see Kylo Ren does also have a matching C-gripping hand for holding the lightsaber hilt, maybe in a two-handed pose for that left hand there, so that's great that they give you those options. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you do have some open idle hands. These can be used as a loose grip on the saber, maybe as an offhand for a two-handed saber pose, or if you just want his hands down at his sides, it's very nice to have these. And then, of course, we have this option is only available for the left hand. It is an open force gesture hand. This is probably one that I'm going to be using for my display because this one is just very, very indicative of a Kylo Ren character. Kylo Ren does also come with his lightsaber. Now look at this nice, deep, saturated red for the blades, both at the crossguard and the main blade here. The detail on the saber hilt itself is very, very nice. Lots of subtle detail, lots of little scratches in the metal here. Everything looks really nice. The bright red at the pommel there, and at the emitter, lots of extra detail here at that crossguard. Everything looks really good. I wish Hot Toys would do deeper, more vibrant colors like this on their newer releases, as opposed to the much more pale and opaque colors that they go with on their newer releases. Because what I don't like about the newer Hot Toys is that some of those blades are so pale, because obviously they're encouraging you to use that, you know, USB style light up saber, that it just doesn't look as good when it's not lit up. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the review. This is another instance where something looks good with and without that light up feature. You can obviously remove the blades of this lightsaber because you're going to want it for multiple reasons. You can obviously hook this onto Kylo Ren's belt here. You'll see there is that slot that hooks on very nicely, and it's a very secure connection. You're not going to have any issues with this falling off the figure, and it looks great, very, very proportional. However, and one of our last accessories for this figure, you know, pretty light on the accessories, but honestly, all the essentials here. You have this whole little lower arm here. You can see it's got its own double jointed elbow attached and everything like that, and you can see all the switch and everything. This is for the light up saber, and I'm gonna say it, I prefer this method of the light up saber over what they do now with Hot Toys. I think I'm a fan of this more, and honestly, it's just because, again, everything's more vibrant, and I'd rather swap out the arm as long as you give me easy access, you know, than do all that. But you do also have, this is the only hand you can use with this figure. It does have the rubbery fingers like a lot of your swappable hands, but all you do is you just turn the switch here, it lights up. You can't really see it with the lights on. Let me do it with the lights off, and here's how that looks. Obviously, you can see it doesn't do a great job of illuminating your main saber. However, those cross guards are nice and illuminated. All that said, I think I still prefer this method over the USB method. Of course, our Kylo Ren does come with a display stand, as most all Star Wars Hot Toys do. You have just your basic Star Wars display stand. This is either the, you know, Venator Jedi Cruiser floor, or this can be the Imperial Star Destroyer flooring. Looks great. You have your little chrome plaque here on the front of the figure. It says the character's name with the Star Wars logo. Other than that, very basic, and it doesn't need to be super detailed. I don't need big terrain pieces on just basic figures like this, where I'm trying to draw your attention to the figure, not the stand. Kylo does come with the crotch grabber style of stand here, so you do have your little wire piece with these little hooks that go underneath the crotch to help hold the figure up in some more dynamic posing. This does adjust up and down, can be pulled out all the way and placed back into the stand, and all you do is just put this into the stand. You will kind of hear and feel it click into place once it's in place, and there we go. Now we have our display stand all set. And finally, as with most Star Wars Hot Toys, our Kylo Ren does come with a pair of swappable wrist pegs. This is something that I really appreciate with the Star Wars Hot Toys, is giving you a pair of swappable wrist pegs. God forbid you break the wrist peg when you're swapping hands. I know I've done it. I know that I've done it before, so having this as an option is very, very nice, very consumer friendly. All right, we've checked out Kylo Ren, his articulation, and his accessories, so why don't we get him posed up a few ways, start having some fun with this figure. We'll start with a pretty basic pose of Kylo with just the fist up, ready to annihilate some resistance scum. And I gotta say, I really like the look and the silhouette of this figure. The soft goods, even though they're not wired, they do lay pretty nicely, and you can obviously roll them and tuck them however you'd like to get it to lay even nicer. But I will say, overall, this guy has a great silhouette. When you're attaching an accessory to your Hot Toy, I always recommend removing the accessory and the hand from the body, putting the hand with the accessory, and then attaching both to the figure together. It's just going to avoid a lot of hassle and a lot of stress of maybe breaking those wrist pegs. Here I've got Kylo Ren in a nice low pose here with the legs a little bit more spread, and he does have that lightsaber ignited like he first does in a lot of the battle scenes. I really, really like the way this figure looks, and I'm a big fan of the way that lightsaber looks. Now, while Kylo is predominantly a one-handed saber dueler, here's a great example of using that open idle hand as an offhand for a two-handed lightsaber pose, and I think that this looks really nice. All right, here's a really nice one-legged running pose with this guy, some nightmare fuel for you. And again, other than really my only negative on this figure being the lack of ankle pivot. But with that, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for my review of Kylo Ren here. This figure holds up for the most part. Literally, my only gripe is the lack of ankle articulation, and that's a complaint that I would have had back in 2021 as well. Other than that, I think the saber looks great, the helmet looks great. I especially love the light up feature on the helmet. That is such a great plus. Maybe a wired cape would have been nice, but again, that's something that I expect more as a standard now in 2025, whereas I don't know if I would have felt that way in 2021. Overall, this is a great figure, and if you're looking for some definitive sequel representation on your display, this is the way to go. Big shout out once again to Mick Lowe from the Out of the Basement Discord for this deal on this figure. I'm really excited to add him to the display. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you are an ARC trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, check out the link to my Patreon in the description below and become an ARC trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, you get access to all my reviews early as opposed to all of my content like you get with the Patreon. You get exclusive badges and priority replies in my comment section, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel. Both my Patreon members and my channel members voted that this is one of the next reviews I would do for the channel. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody, cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?